What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's always a good time when we get together, isn't it? Today I'm going to be showing you 10 ways that you are absolutely destroying your short path distillation setup. Number 1, improper heating. If you start ramping up a temperature, you might get an uneven distribution of heat in the center of your mantle as it slowly starts to go all the way around. So what do? You need to be going in 10-degree increments. That means that your set point on your mantle will be 130. When it reaches 130, it will go to 140. Now here's where you stop, and this is a critical step. Here, you need to let it degas before you go on further. There will be some residual gases, especially if this is crude oil, left over that you need to wait just a little bit for that vacuum to stabilize and that bubbling to stop. Then you can proceed to go by 10-degree increments to 130, 140, 150. Skipping this step is essentially how you get that violent bumping, boom, boom, boom. If you've ever seen that inside of your mantle and up into your distillation head, that sends crude into your condenser within the first 10 minutes of a run. So bubbling should stop, vacuum should stabilize, move on until you get to your set temperature. Now let's talk about mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is that people are not using this full bore system. If you can see right here at the edge, so this is where my vacuum connects. My vacuum connects to right here and pulls a vacuum on the entire machine. And I'm going to pull up another image right here of this worthless little hose thingy. This thingy is just horrible. You should never use it, ever, 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 ever. Do not be cheap and do not buy this thing. Now, why did you get one to begin with? Well, because Chinese manufacturers love it. Because it's cheap to produce, it doesn't require any precision machining, and it works fine for applications where you only need like a rough vacuum, like 1 to 5 torr, not for cannabis distillate. The problem is that vacuum depth required for cannabis distillation, sub 200 micron, and ideally sub 100 micron, gas flows through a tube, follows molecular flow regime physics, not viscous flow. In molecular flow, conductance is proportional to the cube of the diameter. This means that a 10 millimeter inside diameter hose barb has roughly 1/27th the conductance of a 30 millimeter full bore connection. So that means that your $3,000 Edwards or Welch pump that you've got there might be rated for 10 micron ultimate vacuum at the inlet, but by the time that vacuum traverses up into this weak little hose barb thingy, that's not what you're getting. And then crimped down into a 90-degree bend and then into the distillation head, your effective vacuum at the boiling flask is like closer to 300 to 500 micron, and you have choked the entire system through essentially a straw. Now, let's get into mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is these worthless triple cowl systems. Worthless triple cowl systems. You want to be able to isolate the purity. Isolate the purity. That's where all of your money is. Now, if you're using a triple cowl system as you just rotate, essentially, the flask that is mandatory for the collection at that time and that portion of your fraction, you're going to get some cross-contamination. If you look closely here at the way that this system is set up, and it's set up perfectly, you can see this is a vacuum isolation valve. So essentially what you would do, as you notice that you're coming into your main body fraction or your switching fractions, you would isolate this valve in its entirety. This would trap the vacuum all through here, allow nothing fresh to come through here, and allow nothing more to pass through here. That would allow you to then lower your stand, and then you would be able to switch out for a fresh flask. You'd be able to switch out for a fresh flask, in which case, boop, you would reconnect right here to this bad boy, and then you would open it and allow the vacuum to pull down into that flask as well, and allow the distillate to traverse the path. Triple cowl systems absolutely worthless, okay, in cannabis distillation, okay? Don't crucify me in the comments. Not worthless for everything. For cannabis distillation, absolutely worthless. Now, let's get into something else, which is the vacuum pump. Now, I know this is where people love to cut costs. Number one, the first thing that they do is they find them a distillation setup that is about 57 cents USD, and they say, oh wow, what an amazing deal. But it comes with that stupid little barb thingy with the little bitty hose that we talked about earlier. And then also they're like, not really gonna spend the money on a vacuum pump, so they get something silly like one of these that I'm popping up, so you can see all of the different clients that we've talked to that have used these cheap, worthless vacuum pumps. This thing is not going to cut it. If you want to go cheap, on borosilicate glass from a Chinese manufacturer, I completely understand. I'm a budgetary aficionado myself. However, you do not want to skimp on your vacuum pump. So now I'm going to show you one or two, maybe right here, somewhere in this area around here, vacuum pumps that you want to use to get that good vacuum. And the reason is the vacuum pump build. They are just not built the same. I don't care how many CFMs they say they're rated for. I don't care how much vacuum it says it's rated for. When you do not have the quality build, you will not get a quality vacuum. And that brings us to mistake number 5. Not exhausting your vacuum pump off gas. Now this is just disgusting, guys. So here you will have where your vacuum is connected, but you'll notice that as you have an input, you also have an output. And you might have also noticed, and somebody that doesn't do this properly, that you have a whenever you go to turn on your distillation pump and it brings your entire distillation apparatus under vacuum, you have this delicious, delectable fish type odor that makes everybody in the laboratory want to vomit and throw up immediately because it's absolutely disgusting. Maybe you have a weird, unique fetish or liking for this smell. I hate it. It makes my stomach curdle. And the reason is that all of those volatiles are getting sucked out by your pump and then purged into your laboratory atmosphere. Very easy. Take you a KF25 hose barb fitting. That is one of these. Take you one of these, connect it right here, and then drag you a little hose, and you utilize it nicely up the wall or something like that, and connect it to whatever your exhaust. I really hope you have an exhaust ventilation in your laboratory. If you don't, stop this video, go get one of those now, and then come back once you have one. But we want that hose to be directly connected to there. That way, when we suck everything down, all of our technicians don't immediately quit on us because they can't stand being in the laboratory, or we're not, smelling that stuff. It's disgusting. Okay, mistake number 6. All right. This one is a big one. I see everybody doing this. This is the difference between mantle temperature and vapor temperature. If you'll see here, we have 2 different temperatures. We have one thermocouple that is going down here into the mantle, measuring the temperature of the oil, and then we have another thermocouple that is going down into the distillation head and is measuring the vapor temperature. Now, operators set the mantle to 180 degrees Celsius and think, hey, right here, that's my distillation temperature. It's not. The mantle is the heat source. The vapor temperature at the distillation head is actually what matters. And that's typically 20 to 50 degrees Celsius lower. It's an extreme variation than what your mantle temperature is reading, depending on the flask loading, vacuum depth, and the surface area, so on and so forth. If your vapor temperature reads 157 C, that is where your cannabinoids are boiling. If your mantle needs to read 220 degrees Celsius to achieve that, you might have, inadequate vacuum, revert to another step, or poor heat transfer. Your crude is too thick, your flask is too full, your stir bar is not spinning correctly, but the vapor temp is the number you control to. Operators who only watch the mantle temperature will either overshoot or undershoot without realizing it. And I've gotten many calls. Brother Grimm from WKU Consulting, you don't understand. I've got my mantle boiling right now to 250 degrees Celsius. This thing is broken. Something is broken, it's not working. And then you come in, you find out they got a cheap vacuum pump, but also they don't actually have any way to monitor the vapor temperature. So how do you know? How do you know where you're at in your distillation without a vapor temperature? So the mantle temperature is what you want to use to heat the oil, but the temperature of what you're actually getting inside of your flask is going to be monitored by the vapor temperature. That brings us to mistake number 7. Not fully decarbing your oil before distillation. And this is probably the single biggest mistake, single most common mistake, not biggest mistake, the single most common mistake that, we see when we come in to try to fix somebody's distillation apparatus. Especially if they're new to distillation. If your crude still has significant levels of CBDA or THCA, those acidic cannabinoids will decarboxylate inside of the distillation flask. Well, what does that do? That directly releases CO2 gas into your vacuum system. The result is a violent bumping, erratic vacuum readings, loss of vacuum depth, and crude boiling over into your condenser or collection flask. Also, this is an extreme time killer. This will take this will take a normal 2 to 4 hour distillation run into the 6 to 8 hour area. Okay, so you'll end up contaminating your distillate fraction with undistilled crude, which means you either need to rerun the entire batch or accept a lower potency product and take all day to do it. Full decarb before distillation is non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. Also, a pro tip is that even after you do solvent recovery, you might have 1 to 2% residual solvent, even if you roto-vapped the tar crud out of it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You will still have about 1 to 2% solvent left over in your crude oil. That will also need to take place and devolatilize here in the mantle. That's not what you want. So what you want to do is just use this trusty little hot plate, or if you're at a large enough scale, then you'd be doing something like a glass reactor. Be completely decarboxylated. And then a quick little pro tip, by the way, stay tuned to the end because I'm going to give you 2 pro tips I bet you didn't know. I'm going to give you 2 of them. So here's a quick one for you is once you're already out of your decarboxylation, you're warm. You're pretty warm. What a perfect opportunity to not have to take all the crude back and put it in a hot water bath, or I've even seen some people microwaving it to get it hot enough, or a heat gun, which will just literally thermally degrade the cannabinoids that you're trying to put in here. And then they get their little glass flask in here and they try to load it up and it's all hot, sticky, and runny. It's just not really working correctly. Well, guess what? Fresh out of decarboxylation, that puppy is coming out at 120 degrees, 130 degrees Celsius, and is prime for direct addition to the distillation apparatus. If you combine the 2 pipelines together, man, you're going to save you so much time in your distillation apparatus. Mistake number 8, not cleaning and greasing your glass after every run. Guys, don't be a dirty boy. Don't be a dirty boy. That's disgusting. After every run, you need to be cleaning all of your glassware. This, first off, is just standard practice, and you should do that. That's disgusting to not do that. But on a scientific basis, you could contaminate batches like this, and you don't want to do that. Your batches should be completely separate to make sure that your batches are not contaminating batch to batch, that you can isolate each batch. And also, re-greasing and re-cleaning all of your glass joints prevents one of the most common failures in not being able to do and not doing this properly, and that is glass to glass fusion. Eventually, the glass to glass, after not being cleaned and not being greased properly because we're trying to save time, we're probably trying to save time because every other inefficiency that we were having in our distillation apparatus, the glass will begin to fuse together. The next time that you do finally get it in your head to go ahead and clean that distillation apparatus, you'll be pulling at these things. You'll probably break some stuff, but this glass will not come apart. It'll be fused together. So properly cleaning and re-greasing, number 1, it will prevent batch contamination. Number 2, it will allow you to make sure that you've got a good coat of grease to decrease any chance of a vacuum leak. And number 3, it'll prevent your glass from fusing together and make sure that you can use your glass for many years to come. Mistake number 9, no vacuum gauge. No vacuum gauge inside of a distillation apparatus. That is insane. That is insane. So if you'll see right here, this is what's called a KF25T. KF25T. Sorry, I lost my mouse there for a second. KF25T. This is a T fitting. This allows us to both connect here and then connect to our vacuum pump, but it also gives us a third port, a tertiary port, if you will, that we can connect a vacuum control module to. Now this vacuum control module is going to tell us all the vacuum that we have in our distillation system. Some of my profound operators might be like, well, duh, you always have a vacuum gauge, but that's just absolutely not the truth. And in some cases, some of the new people getting into distillation or watching from another country, you need this. These are all extra costs. When you buy your turnkey distillation setup and you get it with no vacuum pump, no vacuum gauge, and a weak little hose thingy, these things are things that you need to add on. It wasn't necessarily turnkey, was it? But being able to monitor your vacuum, guys, without being able to monitor your vapor temperature and your vacuum, you have no idea where you are in distillation. After seeing 2,000 distillation runs, like myself, you'll be able to see, and you'll know what's going on in the oil because you've just seen the way that the oil behaves so many times. You've seen, different troubleshooting scenarios, so you'll know those things over time. But fresh out of the box, fresh out of the little baby factory where they make brand new cannabis operators, where we all come from, you're not going to have any idea what's going on, so you'll be flying blind. And absolutely, you need to be able to be tracking all of these parameters anyway. That brings us to our final mistake before we get into our bonus tips, and that is overloading the flask. Overloading the flask. Okay, guys. On a short path distillation setup, the boiling flask should never be more than 50 to 60% full. If you don't have an eye for measuring 50 to 60%, let's just go ahead and tell you that it should never exceed the line of your mantle. It should never exceed the line of your mantle. Now, if the flask is too full on a short path distillation setup, then the surface to area volume ratio drops. Heat transfer will become uneven. The crude will superheat at the bottom and bump to the top, and you'll get another carryover of undistilled material into your condenser. So these are all things that we don't want. So make sure that when you fill up, maybe you've got, people go out and they're like, yo, bro, I got a 2,000 liter short path distillation setup. Not really, but you probably got a 20 or maybe even a 50 or maybe even a 33 like this GX33 that I've got here modeled for you to be able to do tutorials with. That really means that only about 50% of your capacity. It doesn't matter if this is 20 liters. You're really only going to do 10 liters at a time, and that is something that equipment manufacturers don't tell you that you need to be cognizant of before you start doing your business calculations of how much distillate you're going to create every week. Now, I'm also going to give you 2 bonus tips as promised, and this is just a plus for all of those people that maybe knew all of these things. Maybe you don't know this one. Your red or clear color in your distillate comes down to one thing. It is almost always pH, pH, pH. I said it 3 times in case you didn't get the first 2. pH, pH, pH. The crude should come in at 6 to 7, neutral pH. If you fix this, then you probably fixed your color. Tip number 2. Now, how do you know when you are in the main body money maker of your distillation procedure? Well, I'm going to leave you with a single phrase that somebody taught me, and I love it. It's a great phrase. Love this phrase. Okay, so when you're doing a good job, when you're into your main body, you'll notice that your oil starts coming in and begins to coil. It begins to coil. If it's oil, it coils. How do you know that you're there? Well, your main body will come in a thin string and then coil around itself like a beautiful gold. You can almost faintly hear the sound of a money printer going off in the background. In the background, the money printer's going off. So if it coils, it's oil. The phrase is, if it coils, it's oil. If it drips, it's... Guys, it has been a blessing, a privilege, nay, an honor to be able to teach and consult with you today. If you liked this video, no doubt one of these will also help you out, popping up over my shoulders. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.